I'm Eric Reinders. I teach in the Department of Religion in Emory College. When I was an undergraduate, I took a class on philosophy of religion. And instead of an exam, they allowed us to do papers. And I did two substantial research papers for that class. One was about religion as a kind of poetry. And the other one was religion as madness. Now, I like to think I've grown a little bit more sophisticated than that. I don't think I'd use the language of madness anymore. But still, those two papers have been the consistent interest that I've had for my whole academic life. Religion as a kind of poetry and religion as a kind of irrationality. I don't see irrationality as a bug in religion. It's a feature. So, you know, since I was about 16 or so, when I first started to think about these things, I decided I was an atheist. And yet I went to read theology at university, and I've remained in religious studies for my career. So that's a bit weird, right? And the thing is, I'm not actually hostile to religion. It's just I don't think that its claims are true. So I have this problem with truth. You know, a man dies and rises from the dead, and we call it religion. A man dies and rises from the dead, and we call it fantasy. What's the difference? Well, the difference is the claim to truth. But see, I can't really accept that someone died and then rises from the dead. So what do I do with that story? I mean, one option is just ignore it. Say, oh, it's all unverifiable, unscientific, and so on. Just ignore it. Or I could embrace that irrationality, but I have to suspend belief and disbelief. So the puzzle for me for a long time was, how do I get access to the great power of these stories, these religious stories? And when I was younger, it was primarily the Jesus story that I was really fascinated with. How do I get access to that and get some benefit from these great stories if I don't actually believe that it actually happened? So I was looking for a way to delve into a story without actually believing it was true. And the solution to that, very simple, was fiction, especially fantasy fiction, which sets aside the question of realism, right? You can read a realist novel, and although it's fiction, it still feels like reality. But if you read a story with a dragon in it, there's no pretense that this is true. So fantasy fiction is a type of fiction where you find a lot of what you would otherwise find in religion, but you don't have to sign on the dotted line and declare that it's true.